In this chapter, we're going to talk about emotional development and attachment. And we're going to start with exploring emotion. So what are emotions? Well, first, think about times that you have felt an emotion. Maybe you were happy about something, or angry, or sad. Whatever was going on, it was probably something that you cared about, right? I mean, if you literally didn't care at all, then it wouldn't be making you feel happy or angry or sad. So emotion is a feeling that occurs when a person is in a state or an interaction that is important to them in some way. Emotions can be strong or subtle, they can be positive or negative. We experience basic emotions as infants, and then as our brains mature, we gain the capacity for more complex emotions, along with ways of coping with them. The extent to which we learn to recognize and cope with various emotions is affected by biological factors, cognitive factors, and personal experience. For example, babies are attuned to the emotional states of their caregivers. If the caregiver is stressed out, babies sense this and also exhibit signs of stress, such as an increase in heart rate. Also, different cultures around the world vary in how much they express emotion. My husband comes from a more reserved background than me, so he sometimes has to take a break and step outside during the holidays because my side of the family is just so loud and boisterous. The ability to control one's emotions is a key aspect of development. Emotional regulation consists of effectively managing your arousal to adapt to circumstances and to reach a goal. If you can't control your emotions, then that's going to interfere with your daily functioning and your relationship with others. Think about people who engage in road rage. Flying off the handle because someone honked at you or cut you off doesn't solve anything, and it only serves to endanger yourself and others. In infancy and childhood, the regulation of emotion gradually shifts from external sources to self-initiated internal sources. What this means is that you gradually go from needing others to calm you down to being able to calm yourself down. Parents play an important role in helping young children regulate their emotions. Emotion coaching parents are parents who pay attention to their children's emotions and view them as an opportunity for teaching. They help children label what they are feeling and coach them on how to deal effectively with emotions. By contrast, emotion-dismissing parents try to deny, ignore, or change negative emotions. It's not necessarily that they don't care about their children's emotions. More often, it's that they just don't know how to deal with their child's emotional outburst, so they instinctively try to get it to stop as quickly as possible, either by ignoring it or telling them to just get over it and cheer up. Children of emotion coaching parents are better at soothing themselves when they get upset, they focus their attention better, and they have fewer behavior problems than children of emotion dismissing parents. In our previous chapter on intelligence, we mentioned emotional intelligence. If you remember, emotional intelligence is the ability to accurately recognize and manage your own emotions and those of others. And emotional intelligence is a hugely important skill for adapting to the world around us. Here are some emotional competence skills demonstrated by individuals with high emotional intelligence. First is an awareness of one's own emotional states, such as being able to tell the difference between whether one feels sad or anxious. Another is detecting others' emotions, such as understanding when a person is sad rather than afraid. Using vocabulary of emotion in socially and culturally appropriate ways so that people know what they're talking about. Having empathetic and sympathetic sensitivity to others' experiences, such as being sensitive to other people when they are feeling distressed. Recognizing that inner emotional states do not have to correspond to outer expressions. For instance, they recognize that one can feel very angry, yet manage one's emotional expression so that it appears more neutral. If you work in customer service, you probably have to use that one a lot. Adaptively coping with negative emotions by using self-regulatory strategies that help reduce the intensity or duration of such emotional states, such as walking away from an upsetting situation or doing something to take your mind off the thing that is bothering you. Having an awareness that emotional expression plays a role in relationships, such as knowing that expressing anger towards a friend on a regular basis is likely to harm the friendship. And finally, viewing oneself overall as feeling the way one wants to feel. People with good emotional intelligence skills strive to cope effectively with the stress of their life, and they tend to feel like they are successfully doing this. Now let's talk about ways that emotion develops. There are few moments more magical than when a baby smiles for the first time. Within the first 6 months of being born, infants all over the world display the same basic or primary emotions. Those emotions are joy, anger, fear, disgust, surprise, sadness, and interest. Then, after about 18 months, they start to develop what are called self-conscious emotions. Remember back when we were talking about Piaget's sensory motor stage, and how at first infants think in terms of their own bodily actions, and then they start to pay attention to the effect that their actions have on the things and people around them. Well, similarly, as infants move into toddlerhood, they become more aware of both others and themselves. They start to exhibit the emotions of jealousy, empathy, embarrassment, shame, guilt, and pride, emotions that require self-awareness or a sense of me. Emotional expression is involved in infants' first relationships. Being able to communicate emotion allows them to engage in coordinated actions with their caregivers, which is the beginning of the emotional bond between them. Parents change their emotional expressions in response to the infant and vice versa. The infant smiles at the parent and the parent smiles back. The parent smiles at the infant and the infant smiles back. The infant cries to let the caregiver know that they need something. You can even tell the difference between different cries. The basic cry alternates between a cry and a brief silence followed by another cry and so on. The most common condition leading to the basic cry is hunger. There's also the anger cry. This is harsher and louder than the basic cry. The infant is forcing more air through the vocal cords than usual, almost like they're shouting. The pain cry is a sudden, long, initial loud cry, followed by holding their breath. It's not all crying, though. Infants also smile. For the first month of life, infants occasionally smile involuntarily, usually in their sleep. It's adorable, and it's called a reflexive smile, because it's just a reflex. At about 6 weeks after birth, they start smiling in response to something external, usually a person smiling at them and speaking. This is called a social smile. As a parent or caregiver, this smile offers a desperately needed reward during an exhausting time. A third main emotion that infants express is fear. At around 6 months of age, infants develop stranger anxiety. Up until then, you can pass that baby around to relatives and friends and the baby will be totally fine with it. But around 6 months, they start to become wary whenever they're around someone who isn't familiar to them. They just give you the side eye like, I don't know you. This peaks when they turn 1. They might cling to the caregiver when a stranger is around. Another form of fear that infants express is separation protest. This is when they express their displeasure at being separated from their caregiver. This starts at around 8 months old. Do you remember from our cognitive chapter what it is that infants develop at 8 months old? Object permanence. The baby has learned that things and people continue to exist even when they can't see them. So now they can't see their caregiver, and they know that their caregiver still exists. They understand for the first time that the caregiver is gone. They have left, and the infant doesn't like it one bit. This is strongest at around 15 months old. They'll follow you to the bathroom. If the door is locked, they'll be reaching for you under the door like it's the zombie apocalypse. And even if they've been fine with the babysitter and daycare up until that point, they'll scream and cry every time you leave. But don't worry, within 5 minutes they get distracted by toys and they play happily the entire time until they see you again and cue the waterworks. It will ease up eventually. The best thing for you to do is to make your exit briefly and without making a big deal of it. They'll regulate much better that way. Young children's range of emotions expands during early childhood as they increasingly experience self-conscious emotions such as pride, shame, and guilt. Between 2 and 4 years of age, children use an increasing number of terms to describe emotion and learn more about the causes and consequences of feelings. At 4 to 5 years old, children show an increased ability to reflect on emotions and understand that a single event can elicit different emotions in different people. Emotional regulation is a key component of socio-emotional development in childhood. In middle and late childhood, children show a growing awareness of the need to control and manage emotions to meet social standards. Also in this age period, they show enhanced emotional understanding, markedly improve their ability to suppress or conceal negative emotions, such as concealing their disappointment at receiving socks or underwear as a gift, use self-initiated strategies for redirecting feelings, have an increased tendency to take into fuller account the events that lead to emotional reactions, and develop a genuine capacity for empathy. As children get older, they get better at reframing or changing their perception of a stressful situation. For example, if a friend doesn't say hello to them, they might tell themselves, "Oh, maybe she was busy and just didn't notice that she walked by me." However, if a child grew up in a family that wasn't supportive, or if they experience an especially traumatic event, they might be so overwhelmed by stress that they don't use their self-regulation strategies. In the face of especially devastating events, such as a natural disaster or a school shooting, these are some recommendations for helping children to cope with stress. First, reassure the children of their safety and security. You might have to do this numerous times. After Hurricane Harvey, I had to reassure my children regularly during the aftermath that everything was going to be okay, and then for a while afterwards, I would have to reassure them again whenever it rained especially hard. Allow children to retell events and be patient in listening to them. Encourage children to talk about any disturbing or confusing feelings. Let them know that these are normal feelings after a stressful event. Help children make sense of what happened. Children may misunderstand what took place. For example, children may blame themselves, believe things happened that did not happen, and so forth. Gently help children develop a realistic understanding of an event. Finally, protect children from re-exposure to frightening situations and reminders of the trauma. This strategy includes limiting conversations about the event in front of children and limiting exposure to media coverage of the event. Contrary to popular belief, adolescents are not all in a constant state of emotional turmoil. They have ups and downs just like the rest of us, although these highs and lows do increase a bit. Moodiness is a normal aspect of early adolescence. Mostly it's just that the intensity of all their emotions are more extreme. Compared to their parents, teens are 5 times more likely to report being very happy and 3 times more likely to report being very unhappy. Although pubertal changes is associated with an increase in negative emotions, hormonal influences are often small, and environmental experiences may contribute more to the emotions of adolescents than hormonal changes do. Emotional mood swings may be due to not knowing how to adequately express their feelings. Older adults are better at controlling their emotions than younger adults are, and older adults experience more positive and less negative emotions than younger adults do. An important theory regarding developmental changes in emotion during adulthood, especially late adulthood, is the socio-emotional selectivity theory. This theory states that older adults become more selective about their activities and social relationships in order to maintain social and emotional well-being. Essentially, having a decreasing number of years to live influences them to place more emphasis on prioritizing meaningful relationships. This theory also focuses on the types of goals that individuals are motivated to achieve. Knowledge-related and emotion-related goals change across the lifespan. As individuals get older, emotion-related goals become more important to them than knowledge-related goals.